The Detroit Tigers take 2 of 3 from the Chicago White Sox this weekend in what was a roller coaster of a series on and off the field. Let's talk about it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Monday, June 24th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code, all lowercase, LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Welcome in and welcome all on this fine Monday. Hope everyone had a fantastic and safe weekend. The Detroit Tigers win a weekend series against the Chicago White Sox of the south side of Chicago. Take 2 of 3 from them. They win 2-1 on Friday and 11-2 on Sunday with a 5-1 loss on Saturday. This is the Tigers' first series win in 5 series, dating back to their series win 3-game set against Texas on June 3rd through 5th. That is 21 days ago. 21 days ago. About 3 weeks it's been since the Detroit Tigers won a series, and they do so against the worst team in baseball. It really does feel like, I don't know if this is true or at all, or if this is just something that I feel that isn't backed up. But I really do feel like every Monday when we talk about weekend recaps, that at least lately, it's been one great game, one awful game, and then one close game. I feel like that's been a repetitive, semi-consistent thing, at least over the last maybe 3, 4, or 5 Mondays. And this one certainly fits that bill as well. Tigers had their weekly offensive explosion on Sunday. We need a name for it. I decided. I was thinking about that during the game. We need some sort of nickname or like ongoing joke amongst the fan base or amongst the community in so that when someone says, "Oh, it's our whatever game," everybody just knows like what we're talking about. Because it's ridiculous how often this happens. It is almost without fail. Once every 7 to 10 games, they will be horrible and then just randomly explode for 10 to 15, 8 to 15. It's ridiculous. Honestly, at this point, it's pissing me off. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm never going to be upset at wins. A, I don't care if it's against the White Sox or against the Phillies. Don't care. And B, runs. Never going to be mad at those two things. It is unbelievably infuriating, though. Watch them put up, like, this is their run totals. Over the last 9 games, 9, okay? 0, 13, 1, 1, 1, 0, 2, 1, 11. Like, can we grow up? Can we have, how about a nice little 4-piece somewhere, right? How about a nice little, 6-piece nugget somewhere in there? Why does everything have to be 15 or 1? My goodness. So that part is, admittedly, I do get somewhat frustrated by. Fun stat. This is actually via Chase Hyatt. I'm horrible with names, as I'm sure everybody knows by now. I pronounced Jack Flaherty's name wrong in the entire introductory episode to him. But this is from Chase on Twitter, says, I was just thinking about this as well. 3 1/3 runs per game over that stretch. However, only 2 games did they score more than 2 runs. That is ridiculous. That is hysterical and hilariously stupid. And that is what the Tigers have been for a decent, I don't know, sample size now. 1-0, 1-0, 2, 12, 1-0, 0, 1-1, 2, 13. Ridiculous baseball team. Let's talk about what went right this weekend because we do have a series victory. Obviously, all of Sunday. I think that's a pretty safe place to start. Sunday was, again, an 11-2 victory. You can kind of honestly break these three down in like what went right Sunday, what went wrong Saturday, stuff Friday, right? You only scored 2 runs against the White Sox. Not great, but it's still a win. There you go. There's the show. You can just do each game for each segment here. But for real, Reese Olson is where I want to start on the individual player side of things this episode. 6 1/3, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, no walks, and 3 strikeouts. Fantastic command. The slider was unbelievable, as always, right? Very rarely have I, even dating back to last year, very rarely have I ever come on here and said that the slider wasn't really working today for Reese Olson. That's kind of all reliable for him. It is always stellar. He had some success with his fastball up in the zone, and then he went to the sinker low in the zone. And I think that should be the intention, and it kind of is, not perfectly, not exactly. Situational ball comes into play with sequencing a lot of times, but I do think that the 4-seam up to try to get more swings and misses on that, and then anytime you want to throw a fastball low, you can kind of just make it the sinker. I guess if you're going away, especially if you're going righty, low and away, I wouldn't hate a 4-seam fastball there because that's an opportunity to dot with command, get a called strike, or maybe even get somebody to again, like still presumably get on top of the ball and hit it on the ground anyway. But I do think like he should never throw a fastball low and in ever again. I think that, and he doesn't often, but I think that if you do want to do that, make it the sinker because he doesn't have enough swing and miss on the 4-seam. I don't think to justify playing that risky game of throwing, a 4-seamer inside to too many hitters. And in this one, I thought he did exactly that. Is my long-winded way, probably too long-winded way of saying I was really impressed with his sequencing in this ball game. I thought he was great. The changeup really effective yet again. I know I say this every time. I cannot express how awesome it is that he just has the guts to throw righty changeups all the time. Like that's so cool to me, and it's so effective. I absolutely. How can you not adore Reese Olson? And I mean, I guess in a perfect world, maybe you want more strikeouts, but he had plenty of swings and misses in this game. And the cool thing about Reese Olson is he has the ability to get swings and misses kind of whenever, but he also, his batted ball data, balls are mostly on the ground. Now, he had that little hiccup there for whatever it was, 3 or 4 starts there at the beginning of the month. But for the most part, he gets plenty of ground balls as well. And that's just like the ideal pitcher in today's day and age of baseball. You want strikeouts and you want ground balls. And that transitions us into Jack Flaherty, who also has kind of been epitomizing that lately. He went on Friday 5 2/3, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. The 1 earned run was the home run against. That was one of the quickest home runs I've ever seen. Legitimately, that thing got out of here in a hurry. I'm not even sure the camera had time to turn around, and he was already home run trot. That was a really wild home run to watch. Let's break down Flaherty a little bit. All right, we'll do that right after this. Got to talk to you all today about our friends over at FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games, and the sports just aren't sportsing like I want them to do. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Also going to talk to y'all about our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. And you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. If you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks has got you covered this week as well, from lowering select player stats projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup obviously hit more easy, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. And those are every week as well, not just this upcoming week. Prize Picks is available all over the country. Again, players and stats you select, more or less on those certain stats, and you can win big. We always talk about starting pitching strikeouts. Obviously, a lot of fun pitching matchups. Paul Skeens pitched on Sunday, always locked to the TV when he is on the bump, but there's so many every day, and Prize Picks makes it even that much more enjoyable. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB, all one word, for a first deposit match up to $100. That's LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, and we will be back on tomorrow. I was going to say on Monday, and I'm not sure why. Maybe because I'm thinking today is Monday, but actually today's Sunday for me. Anyway, be also sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, the free 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. You can subscribe for free today. Get all your latest news and info in the sports world, or you can check it out for free in the Amazon Fire TV channels app. Talking about Jack Flaherty before we went to break there, he is striking out everybody, right? Again, 8 strikeouts, and he was an out away from a quality start. I always, my heart breaks for pitchers when they are, because quality starts is actually a stat that's used in like contract negotiations and such, because it's a way to quantify or qualify starts without using wins and losses, right? Which is so much determined on stuff that is out of the starting pitcher's control. And I always, my heart breaks when they go 5 2/3 and pitch a really good game, which is what Flaherty did. The pitch count got a little bit high late. His command really went away from him there in those last few batters. But again, when I was talking about with Reese Olson, that's why I transitioned to Jack Flaherty, was he is also striking everybody out, and the players that he doesn't, it's a lot of ground balls and weak contact. That's fantastic, right? And that's something that's gotten better as the season has gone along with him. His batted ball data, the further and further into the year we go, a lot of balls on the ground, a lot of, again, weaker contact. And that is, again, just like the ideal pitcher. You want a lot of swing and miss. You want strikeouts, take the bat out of the hitter's hands. And then on the flip side, if you do have to give up contact, you want it to be on the ground as much as possible. And that's exactly what he's done, especially, again, over the last like month or so. His batted ball data just continues to get better and better and better in that regard. It really does look like he'll be a pretty hot commodity at the trade deadline, which is something we will obviously talk about a lot in the month of July. All-Star break, we'll have plenty of content there. And then obviously the closer we get to the trade deadline itself, we will talk plenty about that. But it does look like he is going to be a pretty hot topic of conversation come July 31st. What else went right this weekend? Gio Urshela on Sunday, I thought, was absolutely fantastic defensively. We don't highlight too many players very often for their defense, so credit where credit's due. Doesn't have elite range, but it's good and solid. And he's just really good at flashing the leather, man. He's got a really, really, really nice glove, and has made a ton of fantastic plays on Sunday alone. He's been a pretty good pickup in that regard from this offseason. Colt Keith, really good weekend at the plate, had a hit in every game this weekend, had the huge game on Sunday, obviously. I still want to see him hit the ball hard in the air to the pull side. Like, I'm looking for that to click and for that breakthrough, because when that happens, that's when I will get really rowdy and loud about his timing being down and and really start driving the hype train a lot more. But regardless, this is still great to see. And the numbers since early May are really solid. He had, peaks and valleys. He really struggled at the beginning of June, but was really hot at the end of May, etc. Like, it hasn't all been, linear, but they are pretty solid, all encompassing offensive numbers since that first week or so in the month of May. And again, despite the fact that I'm waiting for the timing to really click, especially on fastballs, with what I said earlier about getting him to pull the ball hard in the air, I also really do appreciate, and it's a good sign. It is a good sign that he is, like on Sunday, a lot of those balls were on the outside half of the plate, and he was just given what the pitcher gave him, right? He was just, okay, this is on the outside. I'm going to swing. I'm still going to hit the ball hard on the screws, but I'm going to, do the I don't even want to say this now because people are going to say I'm comparing them, and I'm not whatsoever. But doing like the Miguel Cabrera, that was what he was so good at, right? Wherever the ball is, I'm just going to take it to that part of the field. That's what Colt Keith did on Sunday. Please, if I have to read one comment about how I compared the two of them, I'm going to cry. That's not at all what I was doing. Matt Vierling, really solid weekend as well. The adjustments, we talk about him all the time, but they are really paying off. Another guy that's really benefited from hitting the ball hard in the air to the pull side this season. He has taken a pretty sizable step forward, I think, from last year. As far as, I think the only other thing I want to talk about is Beau Brieske. I thought he was really good. It'll be overlooked over the course of the weekend, but I thought he was really sharp on Friday. 2 innings of perfect ball, and I thought that was maybe the best slider we've ever seen from Beau Brieske, the reliever. I genuinely think that, and that's really exciting. We need to see it way more consistently before I'm like, hey, he's got the third pitch, we're all good. But he got a couple of swings and misses on it. One of them was for strike 3. I was unbelievably impressed with how good his slider looked and the shape that it took in Friday's game. Multiple innings yet again for Beau. I think he's going to be one of the more utilized relievers down the stretch here in the second half of the season for your Detroit Tigers, and I think he's deserved it. There's a reason why many people like myself wanted him to make the team out of camp. He's been lights out. So wanted to point that out as well. Let's talk about what went wrong. The Tigers did drop a ball game this weekend. Saturday was a really ugly performance. I guess we can start with just the offense in general in the first 2 games of this series. How many different ways can we break down the offense, right? Like, hopefully a lot more for the sake of the listenability of this show. I hope that we continue to find more ways to break down this offense, but I promise I try. I promise. I try so hard to find different angles and different ways to have this conversation. But again, we talked about the run totals at the beginning of the show, right? It has just been the story of the season, has just been inconsistent offense at best, and bad offense rather, not defense. Inconsistent offense at best and bad offense at worst. And this is a situation where, Eric Fetty has again had a solid season. But not being able to score off the White Sox bullpen, I think is ridiculous. And then on Saturday, you got shoved against a guy who has really only gotten rocked at the major league level so far. So hats off, right? Good start. One of his first good starts at the major league level under his belt. Stick taps to him, as Brian and I say over at Locked On Red Wings. But just a frustrating first 2 games of this series, and probably a disappointment to go into the finale, walk out of those first 2 games with only a series split to these very, very, very dreadful Chicago White Sox. I got a few more things I want to talk about on the side of things that went wrong, a few more players as well. Then we'll talk stuff. All right, we'll do all of that right after this. Got to talk to y'all today about our friends over at Supply House. Get supplies from the site that's made for skilled trades, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts and over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. If you need help with an order, get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business and talk to a real person every time. Pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge as well by joining SupplyHouse.com's free TradeMaster program. Every TradeMaster gets access to dedicated phone lines, free shipping, and a discount on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at SupplyHouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at SupplyHouse.com. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. Talking about everything, every player that was on the side of things that went right this weekend and what went wrong. Talking about what went wrong at this point in the show. Still just some struggling from some younger players, right? I mean, Ryan Kreidler has really just looked kind of borderline overwhelmed so far at the major league level. I think that he's probably going to be here until Javi is healthy, and then he will go back down to Toledo. Kenta Maeda, another not so great start for him. 4 2/3 innings pitched, 8 hits, 3 earned runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts. This wasn't the worst start in the world, but like 3 runs in 4 2/3 is certainly not some Cy Young caliber performance either. His fastball is nothing at this point, man. Like it really has low velocity, as we've talked about all season. And even though it's the highest velocity it's been all season at like 91 miles an hour, that's still not high velo in today's day and age of baseball. It's not even middle of the road velo. That's very, very much on the low end. And the command has just been brutal. And he's not been effective with it so far as a Tiger. We had this conversation last time he pitched too. I really question how many more starts you can justify sending him out there once every 5 days. Maybe they try to move him to the bullpen. Maybe. I've seen some people throw that around. I don't really think he profiles as a major league reliever in the year 2024. Personally, I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to get some value out of the contract, but so far he's got an ERA, over 6, or I think it's at 6 exactly right now, and we're approaching July. It just is what it is, and I think that especially during the All-Star break, there's going to be a lot of tough conversations about his future with the organization unless he turns it around really, really quick, which we haven't seen anything to believe that's going to happen. So another rough start for Maeda. Like I said earlier, just Saturday in general was just really a brutal game. The team didn't look like they had any life in them. Just really uncompetitive baseball kind of from top to bottom. And that's really frustrating against a team that's on pace to be one of the worst teams in the history of baseball. That's really frustrating to have a complete just low, I don't want to say low effort because I think that these are major league players. I like to think that they are giving, the biggest possible effort on a day-to-day basis, but another just really, really, again, kind of lifeless performance for the Tigers on Saturday. Let's talk stuff. Jace Young was not called up this weekend, as we all know. He was placed on the 7-day injured list, actually, with right wrist soreness. So there you go. You kind of knew on Friday morning when there was no hype or talk about him. Like, they weren't going to wait until the lineup card dropped to be like, hey, Jace Young's here. Like, they're going to build that up a little bit more than they were, which was pointed out by several people online, which is a very, very good and legitimate and fair point to bring up. But I know that there was some hype. We talked about the possibility of it on Thursday night, immediately when he gets pulled from the game, you think. But then, once Friday came around and they weren't really talking about it, you kind of knew, okay, well, they're not hyping this up. If the marketing team isn't all over it, probably going to have to wait. Hopefully, it's only the 7-day IL, but hopefully this injury is nothing too serious either, something we will have to keep an eye on. Talked about this on Friday, and I want to talk about this and then we'll move on from this series and we'll kind of just talk about other Tigers related news stuff. But like, I want to know how much this series win matters. Is that the word to people? Like, how does this series win sit with everybody? Is my question. Does anybody care? I don't mean like care about the team. I'm assuming if you're listening to this show in June, despite what has happened so far this season, that you care. Okay, I'm not questioning that. I'm just, like, does this move the needle for anybody taking 2 of 3 against the historically bad White Sox? Does this change anybody's outlook on the season? Does this make you feel anything at all? Really? Negative, positive? I don't care. Does this series, right? Even if it is negative, like, no, we had to sweep or else I'm done. Fair enough, right? Like the White Sox are awful and the Tigers aren't good enough, I don't think, to really sweep anybody proven this weekend. A series win should have been the expectation, I think, going, in hindsight and going in to this series. So that's just a question I have is how much does this weekend even really matter in the scheme of like the outlook of the season to people? And I think, unfortunately, we're at a point where the answer to that is probably not much. I think that's probably where the team is at, is like taking 2 of 3 against the White Sox who are on pace to win 43 games or whatever. Probably doesn't do a whole lot for too many people. Okay, that's it for this weekend. Spencer Torkelson struggling now in Toledo. Got off to the hot start the first week. His numbers have fallen off pretty dramatically since. A lot of adjustments need to be made. That's really all I have to say. A lot of adjustments. We've talked about his numbers against velocity. They're very poor. They continue to be down in Toledo. Adjustments need to be made for him. Mechanical, amongst many, need some adjustments to be made there. Alex Lange had surgery over the weekend. He is done for the season. He should be back by the start of 2025. It sounds like by everybody's account, including himself. Really a heart-wrenching interview with him. He was back in the Tigers clubhouse over the weekend, and the beat writers got a hold of him and asked him some questions. Really, I mean, for as much as he's been kind of put through the ringer by the fan base over the last calendar year, one thing that I don't think anybody has ever really doubted with Lange is that he wants to be out there. He wants to compete every day, and he plays for his teammates. Man, I mean, that is a guy that was, choking up at the fact that he wasn't going to pitch with his family. He called them in the bullpen the remainder of the season. And I'm assuming the demotion to Toledo was tough. And now the injury is kind of, the end of his year, quite literally. So that is frustrating, but hopefully he can come back healthy and we can get him throwing balls in the strike zone again, because I'm sure that's what everybody, himself included, wants to see out of him. Was doing that a little bit better in Toledo, which is what kind of makes this really even more frustrating. Speaking of injury news, Jackson Jobe, a rehab start in AAA. In AAA, goodness, that's just not true. In high single A, West Michigan, not sure where I got AAA from. The Tigers' top pitching prospect went 3 innings. Maybe that's what I was thinking of. I'm going to go with that. I meant to say 3 innings and said AAA instead. That doesn't even make sense. 3 innings, 0 hits, no runs, no walks, and 4 strikeouts. Emily Walden of Baseball America said that he was either going to go 3 innings or 35 pitches. He did both, about, right? 32 pitches in 3 innings. The fastball velocity was in the upper 90s. He looked absolutely phenomenal. I'd imagine he'll only get, really, I'm sure he's healthy, and now they're just keeping him down there to stretch him back out to full game use, and then he'll go up and return. So, I also think we're going to see him at some point this season. I really do. I think that's maybe at the very end of the year, right? I'm not saying anytime soon. I'm not saying he's around the corner. I think it's a September call-up if it does happen. But I think that he's kind of in a position where that is something that would be in the best interest of, I think, all parties. Fans, front office, Jackson Jobe himself, the Detroit Tigers, everybody. So we're going to keep an eye on that, but good to see him healthy. I think that's pretty much everything. College World Series this weekend, absolutely phenomenal. I actually have to go back out there and catch the end of the ball game. I have something going on tonight, so I couldn't wait until the end. But got to see if this goes to a third game, because if it does, Monday night you're going to have Game 7, Stanley Cup Finals, and Game 3, do or die College World Series. That is going to be really fun. But A&M just absolutely littered with draft prospects, first 2-round talents at that. Tennessee, obviously one of the premier teams in the country as well. It's been a really, really fun College World Series. And now the final series of the College World Series looks like it's going to go to a Game 3, which will be super, super fun, assuming it does. The Tigers now kick off a 3-game set against the Philadelphia Phillies. So you played the worst team in baseball, and now you face one of, if not the best teams in baseball in the Philadelphia Phillies. They're 51-26, which I believe, is, in fact, at the time of this recording at least, the highest win percentage in the entire game of baseball. They have one less win than the Yankees, but also one less loss. So they come out just ahead of them as far as win percentage goes. They've gotten everything, man. They have gotten crazy good pitching. They have gotten really good offense. They are one of the premier teams in this sport. They have good relievers, a Nebraska team with a good bullpen. I know they've been really a tough nut to crack. This is going to be very difficult. You're playing in Comerica. Game 1, Casey Mize against Aaron Nola, somebody who was a free agent this past year that I really wanted the Tigers to go after, but the Phillies paid him a ton of money to not to do that. So he is still in Philly. Game 2, we have Tarek Skubal against Ranger Suarez, who has been one of the most least talked about stories, but yet biggest stories in the game of baseball. This is a dude who in 15 starts has a 10-1 record and a 1.75 ERA, a 0.89 whip. He has been absolutely lights out. So you get 2 Cy Young candidates so far this season in Suarez and Skubal going in Game 2. And then on Wednesday, a day game, you have Spencer Turnbull against Spencer Turnbull. So old friend alert there. And you have him going up against TBD right now. Evan Woodbury of M Live put out a great thread that I recommend you go look and breaking down some possibilities for who's going to start that game, because the Tigers did announce that they're going to push back the rotation to give everybody an extra day's rest, which means that it's not going to be anybody in the current rotation that starts that ball game. But you can't really do a straight bullpen game either unless you plan on Englert and or Wentz going significant amount of time, which I don't think they really want to do, at least to start a ball game. That's more of a low leverage thing. So Woodbury pointed out that there's a possibility of Ryan Kreidler returning. Also, Alex Faedo should be close to healthy again around there. He started a rehab assignment in Toledo over the weekend as well. So a few different possibilities there that we're going to have to keep an eye on, and we will do that here. All right. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day, and we'll be back tomorrow. All right, recapping Game 1 against the Phillies, as well as talking about anything else surrounding the Tigers organization. I appreciate you all greatly for tuning in this late into the season, and despite maybe the struggles that the team has had this year, I'm going to be here no matter what. All right, peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch you all tomorrow, baby. Go Tigers.